Welcome to this rapid revision video looking at the outbreak of war between England and Spain. Firstly, we need to consider the impact of the Treaty of Nonsuch. In 1585, the Dutch Protestants fighting the forces of Philip II of Spain offered Elizabeth rule over the Netherlands. Elizabeth refused this, knowing that this would effectively depose Philip II, who ruled the Netherlands as part of his empire, which would have been too much of a provocation. However, she did sign the Treaty of Nonsuch. This meant that Elizabeth agreed to directly take part in the war on the side of the Dutch Protestant rebels. England would pay for an army of 7,400 troops. These would be commanded by Robert Dudley, Earl of Leicester. He had long been one of Elizabeth's favourites. To back this up, Elizabeth also sent Sir Francis Drake to raid Spanish settlements in the New World. The Treaty of Berwick also meant that the Scottish border to the north was now far more secure. Whether it had been formally declared or not, England and Spain were now at war. Dudley's campaign in the Netherlands began in 1586, and to say the least, it was not successful. Elizabeth still hoped to negotiate with Spain and was therefore unwilling to take decisive action. Dudley was given neither sufficient money nor sufficient supplies to be really effective. Dudley also accepted the title Governor-General of the Netherlands, which had been offered to him by the Dutch rebels. He accepted it on behalf of Elizabeth in January 1586, but this actually angered her, as it would provoke Philip into believing that he was being deposed. In the summer campaigning season of 1586, Dudley only succeeded in slowing the Duke of Parma's advance. He didn't stop it, and he definitely didn't push it back. While some Spanish forts were captured, Zutphen Fort was lost when Sir William Stanley defected to the Spanish. As Stanley was one of Dudley's choices, Dutch trust in the English was badly damaged, especially trust in Dudley. Were English fortunes any better in 1587? Well, Dudley returned to England for the winter of 1586 to 87, but returned to the Netherlands in June 1587. Again, he had too little money or supplies to make a big difference, but the campaign did have some useful outcomes for the English. The Duke of Parma had hoped to capture the deep water port of Ostend. Such ports are important, as they are useful for bringing in supplies from large ships. However, Parma failed to capture Ostend, at least partly because of Dudley's campaigning. He couldn't have known it at the time, but this would have serious complications for the Spanish when they attempted to invade with the Spanish Armada in 1588, as they weren't able to pick up their army directly from one of these ports. Overall, though, the English failed in the Netherlands still. Let's break down the reasons why Dudley failed. Firstly, funds. The English forces never had the necessary funds and supplies to succeed. England was too poor for a foreign campaign. Planning and aims. Elizabeth wanted the Netherlands to return to the way it had been governed in 1548, with a certain amount of autonomy from Spain, meaning that they could govern themselves a bit more. However, Dudley wanted to liberate all of the Netherlands from Spanish rule. This disconnect meant that it was never clear what the English force was trying to achieve in the Netherlands. Also, a lack of support. Elizabeth was never fully supportive of either the English force or the Dutch Protestant rebels. She still hoped to negotiate with Spain and avoid a costly and risky war with powerful Spain. But also, Anglo-Dutch relations were not good. Elizabeth's unclear aims and lack of decisiveness and commitment to the Protestant rebel cause in the Netherlands meant there was little trust between supposed English and Dutch allies, which harmed their effectiveness and their coordination. There was one particular English victory, though. Despite being tremendously powerful, the Spanish did suffer one particularly embarrassing defeat. Philip had been building up an armada with the intention of invading the troublesome English. On April the 19th, 1587, Sir Francis Drake led a small flotilla of English warships into the Spanish-controlled port of Cadiz. This is an event that's since become known as singeing the King of Spain's beard. The Spanish were caught out. The raid lasted for 3 days, 30 Spanish ships were lost, the Armada's invasion supplies were plundered or destroyed, and Philip was left utterly infuriated. Adding insult to injury, Drake then resumed his privateering for Spanish gold and silver. Although he only captured one ship, the disruption distracted the Spanish from their efforts to build up the Armada, and it would have unforeseen consequences when the Armada actually took place. Our final points then. Elizabeth's actions in 1585 and the signing of the Treaty of Nonsuch made war between England and Spain over the Netherlands inevitable. However, English attempts to disrupt Spanish forces in the Netherlands largely failed. Dudley's army was too small, too underfunded, and too poorly supplied to do any more than slow the Duke of Parma's advance. Elizabeth failed to take decisive action, and English aims were muddled, leading to a lack of trust between the Dutch Protestant rebels and their English allies. That said, there were some successes. Spain failed to take the deep water port of Ostend, which would have important consequences for the Armada in 1588. Similarly, Philip's planning for the Armada was disrupted by Drake's raids, and the raid on Cadiz in particular in 1587 was a major embarrassment for Spain. That means that next time we're going to look at the Spanish Armada, and we'll find out what the long-term impact of these things is. But for now, that's the end of this video. I hope it's been useful to you, and if it has, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. But for now, thanks and goodbye.